Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler des verbes réfléchis, or in English we call them reflexive verbs. You might recognize this expression, les verbes réfléchis, from our être song when we learned the passé composé. Think about it for a minute. We had aller, venu, sorti, parti, devenu, retourné, arrivé, resté, rentré, tombé, entré, revenu, monté, descendu, passé par les morts, monté, descendu, passé par les morts, et les verbes réfléchis. So today is the day you're finally going to learn what that expression, les verbes réfléchis, means. First, we need to briefly talk about the direct object of a sentence, though. You've most likely discussed this in English already. The direct objects, it's the what got verbed of the sentence. It's the item in the sentence that receives the action of the sentence. Look at the examples that are on your note sheet. We have mon père lave la voiture. Okay? In English, my father washes the car. What got washed? The car got washed. It received the washing action of the sentence, so it's the direct object. We have Monique habille son enfant, or Monique dresses her child. What got dressed? The child got dressed, so that is the direct object of the sentence. Okay. In the above sentences, the car and the child receive the action of the verb, therefore they are the direct objects of the sentence. Les verbes réfléchis come into play, however, when the object of the sentence is the same as the subject. So when the object of the sentence is the same as the subject, we must use what's called a reflexive verb. We use many reflexive verbs to talk about aspects of our daily routine that one does for oneself, like getting dressed, getting oneself up, washing oneself, or combing or brushing one's hair. And if you take a look back at yesterday's vocabulary list, you will see on that list that there are many items that on one side of the page, the left side of the page, it was the item that was done to somebody else without the se in front of it. And on the right side of the page, it was the action done to oneself. And then we did put the se in front of it. All those verbs on the right side were the reflexive verbs, whereas the verbs on the left side were not. Reflexive verbs are a type of pronominal verb. That's a fancy grammatical term for basically saying it's a verb that's always accompanied by a reflexive pronoun. The pronoun is sort of attached to the verb. It comes with it, and it changes as the verb is conjugated with different subjects. The pronoun is also like a mirror. It reflects the action back onto the subject. The reflexive pronoun always corresponds to the subject of the sentence. They always go together. It always, but not all, usually, but not always means oneself. If it's plural, it can mean each other. Okay, our first example is the verb se laver, which you remember from yesterday means to wash oneself. Here's what se laver looks like when it's conjugated in the present tense. Our je form, we get je me lave. So this reflexive pronoun se actually changes when we conjugate the verb. Okay. Se laver, I should mention, is an ER verb, so it follows the regular pattern that we've been using for ER verbs all year long, E, ESE, ONS, EZ, ENT. The pronoun will also change. So we have je me lave, tu te laves, il, elle, on, or qui se lave, nous nous lavons. And you notice here we have two nous right next to each other. It's not weird to do that in French because the two different nous have different meanings. The first nous means we, and the second nous means ourselves. So nous nous lavons, we wash ourselves, or we wash each other. Then we have vous vous lavez, and il se lave, or elle se lave. You'll notice in the example translations that I give you, there are a couple different options for what this particular verb can mean. It means I washed myself, Or it could mean I wash a certain part of me on myself. For instance, je me lave les mains would mean I wash the hands on myself. Let's take a look at a reflexive verb that starts with an H. So it starts with a vowel sound. You notice in the infinitive, we have an S apostrophe instead of an SE. That's going to show a slight change in some of the reflexive pronouns you have here. So when we conjugate it in the me form, we get je m'habille. So instead of that ME, it becomes an M apostrophe. Tu t'habilles, T apostrophe. Il s'habille, elle s'habille, on s'habille, qui s'habille. Nous nous habillons. Vous vous habillez. Il s'habille or elle s'habille. A few things that we want to note with our reflexive or pronominal verbs. First of all, body parts that come after a reflexive verb are always going to be introduced by a definite article, a le, la, elle apostrophe, or les. For example, je me lave les mains. If we translate that literally, I wash myself the hands. In English, we understand that to mean I wash my hands. Elle se brosse les cheveux. Literally, she brushes herself the hair. We understand that to mean she brushes her hair. Nous nous rasons le visage. Literally, we shave ourselves the face. In English, we understand that as we shave our faces. Elle se maquille le visage. So they put makeup on themselves, the face, or they put makeup on their faces. The next thing we want to remember with reflexive verbs is that when a reflexive verb is used in its infinitive form, the reflexive pronoun comes right before the infinitive. In our first example, we have je vais m'habiller dans une heure. So here's a great example of a sentence in the future proche. We've got our conjugated form of aller, and we have our infinitive. You'll notice that the reflexive pronoun still changed to match the je. Okay? We still use the me with the je, but even though we left our verb unconjugated. You'll also notice that this me stays with its verb. It doesn't stick with the je, it goes with the verb. It matches the je, but it stays with the verb that it goes with. So, je vais m'habiller dans une heure. I am going to get dressed in an hour. Nous allons nous laver ce soir. Okay. Another great example of the future proche. We've got our conjugated form of aller, our infinitive, and our reflexive pronoun that matches the subject but stays next to the verb. That means we are going to wash ourselves tonight. Veux-tu te maquiller avant de partir? Do you want to put on makeup before leaving? And pouvez-vous vous préparer ce soir? Can you prepare yourself this evening? When you need to make a sentence with a reflexive pronoun negative, we still put the ne and pas around the verb, only now we include that reflexive pronoun in between the ne pas sandwich. It's kind of like the lettuce on the ne pas sandwich. So we have je ne me lave pas ce soir. Okay, your ne goes before your pronoun and verb, your pas comes after. I do not wash in the evenings. Vous ne vous brossez pas les cheveux. That means you don't brush your hair.